Welcome, everyone. We are now live. Thank you for joining our webinar and live stream today. And welcome to our webinar on life sciences. My name is Douglas, and I'm going to be one of your hosts for this event. I'm from the Study in Sweden team, and I'm joined by...
I'm Adam. I'm also here at the Study in Sweden team at the Swedish Institute. Nice to be here.
And we are actually joined by Anastasiya and Reuben. Guys, I'm going to introduce you very briefly. I know you're looking forward to speaking. You can see them on camera there. But just before we get into the agenda for how this webinar is going to work, we want to give you guys a heads up that we have multiple subject area webinars. So if any of you are joining today and you're interested in engineering or IT, business and economics, we have you covered as well. So on the screen, you can see some of our upcoming subject area webinars, which we have. They'll all be hosted by Adam and I and various students in Sweden to share their stories about what it's like to live and study here. We also have on the 1st of December, a application Q&A with our colleagues from university admissions. And that's just because Adam and I aren't admission experts, so we're going to give you a chance to ask any kind of last minute, or not too last minute.
Quite early.
Yeah, early planning application questions to our colleagues from university admissions. So just so you know the structure for this webinar, I'm going to give a little introduction from our side from Study in Sweden before we pass on to Reuben and Anastasiya, the stars of the day. So maybe Reuben, you can just give a quick wave. Yay, and Reuben is from the Philippines and studying a master's program in biomedical surface science at Malmö University. And we're also joined by Anastasiya. If you want to give a wave, Anastasiya. Yay, thank you. And Anastasiya is up in the north of Sweden, pretty far up north, I guess, in Umeå. We're really happy to have someone from the north joining us today, and then the south with Reuben. Anastasiya is from the US and studying a bachelor's program in life science at Umeå University. And then we wrap things up with a Q&A where you guys can send in your questions either on Zoom, or we're also streaming this live on YouTube right now. So you can write your questions there. Adam has an eye on YouTube. We both have an eye on questions that come in on Zoom. So we'll ask your questions to us, or really whatever you want to ask Reuben and Anastasiya.
So you can start writing your questions already now, and I'll try to answer some already quick questions, but the rest I will save for when we have our Q&A session.
Perfect. Just a few basics, I guess, about Sweden and studying in Sweden. I'll keep this pretty brief. And Anastasiya, you can turn off your cameras, both you and Reuben, that'd be great. Thanks. So just a few basics before I let them take over here. So one of them, I guess the main thing I want you guys to take away from here is, Sweden doesn't have that many people. Yes, we only have 10 million people. But the main thing here is that we have 39 universities in Sweden. All our universities are high quality. I would say if I compare to the US, where I'm from, we don't have a huge difference in the quality of education from those that are kind of ranked near the top and at the bottom. We have a huge number of programs that we offer, and we're going to give you guys a little introduction to that as well. But one of the key things, if you don't know this, that you should know is that English is all you need to survive in Sweden. We offer a lot of programs in English. You don't need any Swedish to study one of these programs. And almost all Swedes speak just about fluent English as well. So it's a really easy place to live if you want to get by in English. I can attest to that. Studying in Sweden, what do we offer you as an international student? Well, we have over 1,000 English taught programs in Sweden. You can study just about anything in English. Our bachelor programs, we have over 100 of them. I think it's close to 150 now or even more. Our bachelor programs are 3 years long. And at the master's level, we have over 1,000 English taught programs. That is among the most in Europe. And we have both 1 and 2-year master programs. You can study just about anything at the master's level in English. The only exceptions are dentistry, medicine, teaching, nursing, maybe psychology, just because those have to be taught in Swedish because you're going to be working in Swedish. If you haven't, you can visit our website, studyinsweden.se. For all of you who are sending in questions right now about specific programs, do we offer this and that? Just go into our website and search on the program database. That's the easiest way to do that. I'll show you later as well how it works. So we have a really easy application timeline. The application deadline is the 15th of January. Don't miss that deadline. That's really important. You can choose up to 4 master's programs to apply to. We have a national application portal on universityadmissions.se. And you can choose up to 8 bachelor programs to apply to. Those programs can be at a mix of universities or the same university, however you want to put it together, basically. 15th of January is the application deadline you need to prepare for right now. And you do have until the 1st of February to pay the application fee to send in supporting documents, but you have to have sent in the application by the 15th of January. And then our programs start in late August 2021. August is when just about all our programs begin. Scholarships. We have you covered from our side at the Swedish Institute. We offer, or at least some of you, we have some of you covered. We have scholarships for master's students that cover your living expenses and your tuition fee. The requirement is that you have around 1.5 years of work experience. And these scholarships are only for specific countries. Do you know? I don't know if it's 37.
Like that,
yeah. Somewhere around that number of select countries. And you can find out the list of countries through our website, studyinsweden.se, where we link to our colleagues here in the office. Well, they're not here, but usually they're here when there's not a pandemic going on. And the application for those scholarships is early February. So it's a separate application process. Swedish universities, they have scholarships as well. Their scholarships are going to cover the tuition fee or part of the tuition fee. We'll go back to that schedule, I guess, once we kind of wrap up for the day. But one more thing is English language requirements. These do vary depending upon the program you apply to, but generally this is a rough guide to the minimum level that you need. We might go back to this, I guess, after Reuben and Anastasiya have presented, but that's a very rough guide. And as we said, there are exceptions. So read more about the program or programs you are interested in. And yeah, continue to send in your guys' questions. Resources here, we'll revisit this at the end as well. Our website, studyinsweden.se, that's where you can find everything you need about studying in Sweden. And yes, our program database where you can search the programs we offer. And we have a lot of resources available to you. You can visit our blogs, which are written by current international students here from different countries. Our YouTube, and Reuben is one of our amazing YouTubers. He's one of our digital ambassadors, so definitely check that out. Of course, you can write to us on Facebook and Instagram, which is also run by our digital ambassadors. You can send them direct messages there and on their stories and ask them really anything you're wondering about. So with that being said, Reuben, thank you for waiting patiently. I will now pass over to you in the tropical south of Sweden, in Malmö. Adam, sit down to take over. Thanks, Reuben.
Yeah, thank you, Douglas and Adam. Thank you for having me here. So, hey, everybody. So today I will be talking about my experiences as a student studying life sciences here in Sweden. So I will be mainly going to talk about what the classroom experience is like, what's special about studying life sciences here in Sweden, and how things are structured and hopefully I can answer some of your questions at the end of this presentation. So before anything else, I would like to introduce myself. So my name is Reuben, and I am originally from the Philippines. So right now I am currently on my final year of my master program in Biomedical Surface Science at Malmö University. So for those of you who don't know, Malmö University is located in the south of Sweden. So it is a very strategic location, especially for those students who would like to venture in life sciences program. And I will be talking about it more as we go through the presentation. So moving on to the next slide. All right, so let's talk about the classroom experience. So a lot of you are already familiar that in general, education in life sciences consists of the theoretical and the practical aspects. So when I say practical aspects, I am pertaining to laboratory sessions. And of course, each of these two components are equally important to have a holistic and good foundation when it comes, of course, when you want to venture in the life sciences professionally. And I think this is that is what I really like about what I am studying right now, because there is kind of like a balance between having a lecture and making sure that we are able to reflect and kind of translate it and practice these theoreticals to or in the laboratory. So just so you guys know, the program that I am in right now is called Biomedical Surface Science. And what it is actually a bridge between two disciplines, which is the surface/colloid chemistry and biology. And the career prospects with this program would range from biopharmaceutical industries, bioproducts developments, and the like. So moving on to the next slide, please. So as I have mentioned a while ago, aside from the balance between the lecture and the laboratory, I also find it interesting to have a very diverse international group in our batch. So right now in our program, we are actually 9, and all of us are actually coming from different parts of the world. And I think the university makes sure that every batch is diverse. And again, as I have mentioned, we all come from different parts of the world with different professional background. And I think that is what makes it the program really unique. And I firmly agree with this setup, since it also encourages us to easily adapt to a multicultural environment. And it also gives us a lot of different perspective on different things. So basically, that's actually what makes it really dynamic when it comes to discussions, because you know that one person or one of your colleagues would be on a different background, and the things that you don't know would actually be translated to that person. So it's a great dynamic when it comes to discussion. And in terms of hierarchy in the classroom, I find it easy to understand concepts when you are able to really ask your professor, you know, without the fear of being ridiculed or the fear of not knowing so much. After all, you are there to learn. In comparison, of course, with my home country in the Philippines, where the higher education is still based on hierarchy, and there is still a huge gap between the professor and the students, which actually makes it hard for the exchange of knowledge within the classroom setting. And I think that is what I have appreciated from our professors, because you can call them by their first name, and they are really helpful when it comes to, explaining, for example, concepts that you think are a little bit complicated to understand. And again, as I have mentioned, you are also free to be critical. You are free to question about the concepts that you think you are a bit skeptical about. And who knows, it could open a good dynamic discussions with your colleagues as well as with your professor. And I think that is where, innovation begins. And I think being innovative is also one of the key components of higher education here in Sweden, which I really like the most. And of course, During my studies, I have also observed a strong collaboration of the university with, with different industries, and there are a few opportunities to meet and build networks, such as in conferences. So moving on to the next slide. So if you guys remembered, I have told you about Malmö being a very strategic location, and here is the reason why. We have what we call as the Medicon Valley, which is actually, so for those who don't know, Medicon Valley is actually one of the strongest life science cluster in the Nordic countries. And this is basically a home to a vibrant ecosystem and deep talent pool of life sciences universities such as Malmö University, Lund University, and research infrastructure. So as you can see in this slide, it provides an environment and an easy access for this life sciences research, as well as for building businesses and industries. So as you can see, there's a lot of different industries. And if you are trying to look, for example, for internship, so there are a lot of, we actually have a database of companies that you can send your application in. Right, so you can see a lot of different biomedical industries, as well as, research institutions thriving in this region, to better the world. So studying life sciences here in Sweden gives you an easy access, a lot of different opportunities to venture in this field. So next slide, please. All right, so just to emphasize a few really awesome facilities, particularly located in Lund, would be the European Spallation Source, or the ESS. So if some of you might not know, this is actually a multidisciplinary research facility based on what will be the world's most powerful pulse neutron source. So it is still currently under construction in Lund. And we also have the MAX Lab 4, which is also a next generation synchrotron radiation facility in Lund, which is already running since 2015. So there's a lot of different opportunities. So if you are interested in nanoparticles, in different kinds of life sciences field, then I guess the region is really rich with these industries. So moving on to the next slide. All right, so now as I have mentioned, I am already in my final year in this program, and most of our course is actually project-based as of the moment. So which means that we actually work with real life problems, and it gives us a feel of what we can actually do when we venture into the real world. And as I said before, my university has really strong collaboration with different industries. And I am actually thrilled to be part of a project right now that is related to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. So we are working together with a research group, and we are trying to investigate lung epithelial cells with its interaction with the virus itself, and hopefully would help us contribute to the development of antiviral medication and or vaccines, which are actually relevant at this point of time. And of course, this research endeavor is a rat race, and the scientific community across the world are up to this challenge. And I'm just happy to be a part of it and experience it as well. And also, I am also thrilled to be doing my master's degree project next year with a company. So it's a very exciting year for me. So these are the things, or tiny bits of things that you can actually have later on when you venture or would want to study life sciences in Sweden. Moving on to the next slide. All right, so Swedish universities offers a lot of opportunities for students to be more equipped and how they can actually use their skills, when you venture out into the real world. And I think that is really important. Like, for instance, I am also a part of a mentorship program where I have a mentor from someone who actually works in a field that I am interested in. And I think this is a very helpful thing in terms of your growth, both personally and professionally. And it also helps us, in building your networks, as that is also one very important aspect when you want to work in Sweden after your studies. Right. So they also have what we call as the Open Lab and Smile Incubators. So what are these things? So this is actually programs where, students are encouraged to be innovative and turn these ideas into something useful. And you never know, these ideas can be translated into companies. You can build your own company, and you can use these laboratories actually for minimal fees. So Swedish universities actually, they encourage entrepreneurship, they encourage innovativeness. So yeah, and moving on, of course, I still have a life outside the university. So maybe we can move on to the next slide. So studying in Sweden in general has a lot of perks because you get to build a lot of connections provided by your respective universities. There are tons of different groups wherein you can join based on your interests, such as, of course, you have sports, feminist clubs, religious groups, and the like. So yeah, it doesn't just end, or you are not just inside the university, but rather you can just be out there and meet different people that you are interested in terms of groups and interests. Next slide. Yeah, so these are just some photos of me with my friends, friends that I made along the way. And next slide. And of course, one thing that I really like most about Sweden would be their concept of lagom, which means, so some of you might not know, so it means not too much, not too little, but just right. So no matter how busy you can actually get in your studies, you can, always have a break and have some fika, or maybe perhaps a good walk in the park. And for some of you also may know, I am a digital ambassador of study in Sweden. I am part of the YouTube team. And if you guys want to follow my journey, and if you have some other questions regarding studying life sciences here in Sweden, you can check them out as well, or you can message me. And of course, to finish my presentation, let me share a nice quote on the next slide by Robert Heinlein. Everything is theoretically impossible until it is done. So we never know. I might see you here in Sweden soon. So thank you. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Reuben. That's very nice.
Yeah, thanks, Reuben. Super cool. I have never really had a chance to hear much about your like what it's like to study life sciences in Sweden from you. So it's cool to hear more about your program. Brilliant, Reuben. Well, thanks a ton for that. Reuben will also, before we go to the Q&A, I'll also show them our YouTube account so they can see where they can find your videos as well. But thanks so much for that, Reuben. Just a reminder, for those of you who have questions, you can write them on YouTube or on Zoom. And you can also, it's fine to have specific questions to Reuben as well. But with that being said, let's transition now on to Anastasiya, waiting patiently for us up in the north of Sweden in Umeå. So please, Anastasiya, take over.
Hey, so my name is Anastasiya, and I'm a second-year bachelor student studying life science at Umeå, and it's very far up north, so it gets very cold there during the winter time. Yeah, so I will just be talking briefly about what it's like to study there, kind of a breakdown of courses and laboratory studies and things like this. So,
Anastasiya, do you still have any sunlight during the day in Umeå?
It's less and less sunlight these days, but yeah. So to talk about the life science bachelor's path here, in year one, we do a lot of chemistry courses. So we have biological chemistry, fundamentals of chemistry, biochemistry, and organic chemistry. And then in the second year, we have a focus on biology. So microbiology, molecular biology, genetics, cell and animal and plant physiology. And in the third year, you can pick the courses that you want to study, and you can decide to do a thesis project. And the third year is where you decide whether you want to pursue chemistry or biology. And here it's good to speak with professors and get to know them, so you can decide if you want to do your thesis project at one of their labs, and network throughout your studies with them. So to talk about classroom experience, we have lectures, we have laboratory work, and collaborative projects. So the lectures are usually given by professors, and they're 2 hours at a time. We also have guest speakers and those working in the labs at the university to come talk about their particular areas of study. And we also have exercise solving seminars where we solve problems together relating to our courses. When it comes to laboratories, we work in pairs. We have to keep lab notebooks so we know what kinds of things are going on in the lab. And our lab report structure is very similar to published research papers. Our labs are kind of spanning throughout the day with a lunch break in between. So in addition to labs, we have collaborative projects, and where we pick topics and we read research papers and we present them as a group to the rest of the class, or we present individually. And we also look at other students' written work and we give them feedback, and we discuss their presentations with them and give them feedback for those as well. So moving on. So Umeå University, and I think studying in Sweden, for me personally, has the benefits of smaller class size. There are not 100-person lecture halls where it can be kind of overwhelming. The class size is very nice when it comes to that. When labs are partnered, you're not alone. You have someone that's working with you, and you can collaborate more. So it's nice in that way that, yeah. And as for courses, they're rated on a VG, G, and U system instead of ABCs. So it's pass, fail, and pass with distinction. So these are the 3 marks that you can get. There's also a focus on presenting and sharing your work, and not just absorbing lectures. You're also interacting with other students and collaborating with them. There's a focus on 1 course at a time, as compared to the States where you might be taking 4 or 5 courses all at once. So it's very good in that sense where you can just zoom in on one area and just focus on your 1 course. So a drawback is, I think here there are slightly fewer electives that you can do at the university compared to those in the States, but there's still plenty to do here. And also with the focus on 1 course at a time, you really have to manage your time well in order to succeed here, because it becomes on you to make sure that you're studying and doing the work that you need to be doing. So When it comes to life outside of studies, in Umeå, it's a lot of nature here. There's a lot of areas where you can hike and camp. And we have an international buddy program where we have a lot of activities that we can do together. There's obviously the Northern Lights up here, which we can see from our town. And yeah, in the life science program, we also have quite a few events where we get to know each other and spend time together. So I think that was it for me. Thank you guys for listening.
Cool.
Thank you. That was great.
Is that your picture of the Northern Lights, Anastasia?
Yeah, that's the one I took myself. There's an area by the lake that we have there that it's a very good place to watch.
I was actually from Umeå. Wow.
So jealous. Have you ever seen the Northern
No,
Lights?
I've never seen it.
Never have.
So I guess
That's my dream.
Jealous.
Different part of the country.
Cool. Thank you so much, Anastasia.
Yeah.
And thanks for everyone for sending in questions. So now we're going to move on to the Q&A session here. But I guess before we do this, I can just kind of show you guys just like one or two resources here really quick. Because we're getting a lot of questions related to specific programs in Sweden. And I know Adam's been writing there to you guys on Zoom when you have questions about specific programs. I'm just going to show you a thing or two on our website here. So, okay, great. So this is our website, studyinsweden.se. If you do have questions about specific programs, if we offer whatever, you can just go in here to our program database and search for whatever you want. And this is a program database for the entire country of Sweden, all universities. You can filter it here by bachelor's or master's or in different ways there. So that's a really good resource for you. Here, student blogs. This is where you can read blog posts from our current digital ambassadors, and Reuben is one of these digital ambassadors. Our digital ambassadors write not only blog posts, but they also run our Instagram account. So that's a really good resource. And also they create videos for our YouTube, which some of you are probably on already right now. But here you can find videos from Reuben and our other YouTubers. So definitely go check out some of Reuben's videos. I love your videos, Reuben. I know a lot of prospective students do as well. But yeah, that's just some of our resources. So maybe with that, then we can get back, I guess, to the Q&A. Adam, do you want to take over?
Can you start with, there's been quite some questions about PhD programs. So I just wanted to say a few words about that. So today we're talking more about master's degrees and bachelor degrees, and PhDs are really a different thing in Sweden. It's sort of like a paid employment by the university. So it's a position that will become available whenever the university opens up a new PhD position. And then you apply for it as you would for a job, kind of. So there's no central website where you can apply for or see all the different PhD positions, but rather you have to look at the university you're interested in, and then you just kind of follow them, contact them, make sure to see what kind of opportunities they might have. Yeah, so that's enough about the PhD, and you can read a lot about this on our website as well, studyinsweden.se. But yes, on to some other questions. We have one question about learning the Swedish language. If it's possible, if you get any opportunities, if it's hard. What do you guys say? Have you tried learning a bit of Swedish?
Well, in my case, I actually have this, I really wanted to learn Swedish because, I mean, my main goal right after my studies would be to work here in Sweden. And I have heard a lot of people saying that Swedish would be a really important aspect when it comes to looking for jobs, especially. So initially, I have enrolled in SFE, which is actually free. So I have the last year, it was quite a challenge for me to actually study Swedish. since you have to be realistic when it comes to in terms of studying, because somehow it takes a lot of your time. So I guess if you are really into, or if you have more time in studying Swedish, then I would definitely do that. But in terms of the load that we are in right now, so I think I have to kind of postpone my learning in terms of Swedish.
And SFE or SFI, for those of you who are wondering, is Swedish for immigrants.
Yeah.
Which is, like Reuben said, it's offered for free by the municipalities here in Sweden. Anastasia, are you studying any Swedish, either at the university or through the SFI courses?
Right. So I'm actually taking SFI myself right now, just because, like Reuben said, I think it's very good once I graduate from my bachelor's to have that as a skill when it comes to finding work, if I decide to work here. So
yeah.
Great. Is it hard, do you think?
I think it's actually quite similar to English. So I think it's kind of fun to learn it.
Nice. That's nice to hear.
What do you think, Reuben?
Well, for me, I think I agree with Anastasia. It's quite similar with English, but somehow I think the problem with me would be time, I would say, because the last time that I am enrolled in SFE, I actually have an evening class. So I have a whole day of doing my university work, and then I have to go back, have a train ride going back to Helsingborg and take the evening class. So it can be quite daunting in terms of time, but I think it's doable if you have really that motivation to do it. So I guess it all boils down to your motivation to learn the language. And I think that's the key.
Great. Yeah, that sounds about right. We had a question about, I think, something that maybe with both of you, but Anastasia, you mentioned that you had some collaborative projects. Could you talk a bit more? Like, what is a collaborative project?
Well, it's basically just kind of research projects on our own, where we read literature from like other papers, and we discuss them in groups. So those are the kinds of projects that we work on, outside of our labs.
Cool. Reuben, I have a very specific question for you. And what would you say are the advantages to studying biomedical masters in Sweden?
Okay, so as I have mentioned a while ago in my presentation, so actually studying life sciences here in Sweden it would take you into a lot of different opportunities. So if you really are interested in working, for example, in cancer or in cancer researches, in COVID-19 research, or any kind of life sciences field, you can definitely be connected to a lot of bioindustry. And I think that is one of the advantages of working here, because for me, it's kind of flexible and it's easy and it's accessible in terms of knowing, for example, the industries that you are eyeing for later on after you are done with your studies. So like example for me, so I have been sending out my application to potential companies that I would want to work with. And right now I have secured a master thesis position in one of the companies here, particularly in Skåne, and it's called Cernel AB. So they are actually working with drugs, particularly for a certain disease. And I think it's really an exciting thing, because there's a lot of opportunities for you to actually practice those skills that you have acquired during your education. So yeah.
Cool, thanks, Reuben.
See, we have a very specific question, and I'm not sure I know the answer, but maybe you guys see if I can find it. Yeah, so if it's possible to finish a 3-year program in less time, like for example, only in 2 years, like to overload your semesters, to do everything more quickly. Do you guys know if it's possible?
Probably Anastasia specifically, yeah.
Yeah, you have a
Yeah,
3.
well, as for me, so the way that the bachelor system is broken up is you have 15 credit courses and one course at a time. So you're having labs and you're having hours of lectures. And the way that it's made is so that it's a very linear structure. And if you try to take 2 courses at a time, the labs might clash together or the lecture might be at the same time. So I don't think you can really finesse shaving off 1 year of your studies.
I totally agree with Anastasia. I think programs here are kind of designed in a linear way, and that you cannot jump from one course to another. And also that the courses are actually seasonal, so you can't just take one course and kind of combine it. So I don't think it's possible.
Right. That's great.
We have one question here that we can answer from our side, and that is about if you have a child, if you're an older student, mature student, you want to bring a child here to study, is that okay? And first off, we can say that there's a huge range of ages among students in Sweden, especially at the master's level, at least. There's a wide variety. So that's totally normal. And yes, your children will have access to childcare while you're in Sweden. You pay a really small fee of, it's around like 120 euros a month or something like that. And then your kid will be able to go to daycare, and that includes like food and diapers and everything. So it's super cheap and it's an amazing deal for international students if you do want to bring your child.
Yeah. Let's see. We had a couple of questions about whether a Swedish program is or a Swedish degree is valid in other countries, and more specifically a degree in medicine, which I guess is a very special category. But do you guys know, I guess maybe for Anastasia, although I think you might be wanting to stay on in Sweden, but if you want to do your master in another country, do you feel like your current bachelor degree would work if you want to go to do a master degree in another country?
Yeah, I think that because it's so specialized, the bachelor's here, it's so focused on your area of study and having you get that laboratory experience. I think I'd probably be well prepared if I wanted to study somewhere else or to work somewhere else additionally.
Right. Yeah. And then specifically about medicine, which this question was, I think in Sweden, usually when you study medicine, you study it in Swedish. So in that way, it's not really, that would, I guess, be a hindrance if you want to go study medicine in Sweden and then work abroad. So that might be the issue. And you also would need to know the Swedish language to get enrolled into those degrees.
A question here for maybe both of you, and I guess we can start off with Reuben, and that is from a student who says if math isn't your strong point, but you're really passionate about studying life sciences, do you think it's possible for someone to succeed if they aren't strong in math? What are your thoughts on that, Reuben?
Well, that's a very nice question. Well, it kind of resonates myself. Well, I'm not really good at math, but I'm really passionate with biology. So I think it's not a problem if you are really determined to want to go and pursue this this field. Then there would always be a way. You could always learn math, I would say.
Cool, thanks. Really nice answer as well, Reuben. Thanks. Anastasia, do you have anything to add to that?
I would have to agree with Reuben. I think that when it comes to math and life science, you have to just practice, and with practice you get better. So even though it seems kind of daunting now to have all these mathematical things going on, it does get easier with time.
Cool, thank you very much. And also thanks to the student who sent that in. This is a really good chance for your honest questions or any worries or concerns you might have right now while Reuben and Anastasia are here.
We have a question about traveling in Europe. So you have both been in Sweden before the corona pandemic, so maybe you can actually compare a bit as well. So the question is traveling from Sweden to the rest of European countries hard? And can we do it in like on a holiday? Can you travel around Europe or does it take too long time? And this is, I mean, this of course is different now during the whole corona pandemic and how it was before, but what are your experiences traveling in Europe?
Well, I am not sure if the question is more of like touristic in terms of traveling.
Yes.
Okay. I think in terms of traveling around Europe, especially for me that I am non-EU, so our residence permit would actually allows us to travel within the Schengen country, within the Schengen region. So I guess it's pretty easy. Yeah.
And you're close to a lot of European countries in southern Sweden as well.
Yes, that is correct. So in terms of mobility, it's quite easy. Like, for example, traveling to Denmark or, of course, pre-corona condition, of course. Yeah.
A question. So Reuben, you spoke about this a little bit, sharing like all the companies that are in your region, I guess. But and both of you can share your opinion on this. But do you have any idea what the job prospects are for someone in the biomedical field in Sweden? I mean, I guess this is more probably you, Reuben, but you can share as well, Anastasia, if you have anything to add here. But do you have any, I mean, you mentioned as well Swedish being an important thing, but do you have any idea in general how the job prospects look for international students?
Yeah, I think in terms of job prospects, I think that most biomedical industries are really keen on taking in fresh talents. And I think that is a very important thing to discuss, especially if you have really specific like fields that you want to work with. So I guess it's not impossible for you to actually have to land a job. Like, for example, in my case, I really have to think and work through in terms of choosing my master degree or my in terms of what I want to work with, because somehow it can also lead you to landing a job right after your studies. So being able to kind of connect yourself to different companies would also allow you to increase your chances of getting jobs right after your studies. So I think it's a matter of knowing which things that you are interested in or which fields that you are interested in. And in that case, you kind of get to direct your path into connecting yourself with companies that you are interested in working on later on.
Cool, thanks, Reuben. And for those of you wondering if international students are allowed to work after your studies or during your studies, you can work during your studies, but I mean, be realistic and just assume that studying a bachelor or master's is basically the same as having a full-time job as it is. And after your studies, you can extend your residence permit automatically to look for a job in Sweden. And that length of time has actually been extended, and I want to say it's a year now, though it might be longer. And if you find a job during that window, then you can just extend your residence permit and keep living and working in Sweden, basically indefinitely. So thanks, Reuben, for that information. Anastasia, have you considered staying in Sweden, I guess, after you graduate? You still have some time left, but.
Yeah, I think that I really fell in love with Sweden over the course of my studies here, and I would want to stay, you know, and continue to live here. So, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Nice. Great. We have a lot of great questions about the application process and admission. Unfortunately, we are no experts in this specific field, but we will have a webinar on this topic in a few days, in about a week. I think it's, what is it, on the 1st of December?
Yep.
Yeah. And so save all those questions and come back on the 1st of December and we'll answer all those questions. But in general, like Douglas said before, if you go to our website and search for programs, then like in the description of each program, you can read about the different requirements and basically what you need to apply. But yeah, that's enough about that.
We've had a few questions about scholarships and tuition fees. And so just to be clear, because we didn't really speak about this that much, is that if any of you today are from a EU or EEA country, a citizen of one of those countries, you do not need to pay tuition fees in Sweden. If you're from outside the EU or EEA, then you do need to pay tuition fees. And tuition fees are going to vary on the program, but generally you're going to be paying around like 14,000 euros per academic year. And as we said, master's programs are 1 and 2 years, bachelor's programs are 3 years. For when you compare the tuition fees with the quality of the education, it's a very reasonable cost, especially compared to other countries like the US, for example. For the master's level, you're probably looking about paying about 1/3 to at most 1/2 you would pay for a similarly ranked program. And then scholarships. We have scholarships from the Swedish Institute for students from select countries who are studying a master's program, and you need about 1.5 years of work experience to be eligible for those scholarships. And then there's university scholarships available as well that cover part of the tuition fees. I don't know, Reuben or Anastasiya, if either of you want to add anything about that related to, I guess, scholarships or tuition fees or even funding.
Well, right now I am holding a scholarship by the university. So yeah, they offer a scholarship for students like us.
Do you find, so there's I think a stereotype that Sweden's really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with you, Anastasiya. What are your thoughts, I guess, on living expenses in Sweden?
I think that it's manageable. It's not so bad because there is a lot to do here where you're interacting with other students. Like we have student pubs and we have student coordinated activities. So instead of going out to like bars or clubs, we have things that are directed at students so that they can save a little bit and be together. Kind of, yeah.
Better prices.
Yeah, student prices.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, for me, so the answer to this question can be quite relative. And actually, it depends on a lot of different factors, like, for example, the city where you live in, if you're single, or if you have family. So it is obviously more, like, for example, it is more obviously expensive to live in a bigger city, like, for example, Stockholm, compared for an instance to where I live, which is in Helsingborg. But of course, it all boils down to smart spending and making priority list of what you actually need. Like, for example, instead of eating out, this might be the perfect time to learn how to cook your food, and of course make sure to take advantage of your student discounts. So yeah.
Cool, thanks guys. Let's see, a question here. So Reuben, this is from someone who's working in Sweden as an engineer, and they would love to get a degree in biomedicine. What do they need to start studying? Or I guess, what would be your advice that you would have to this person?
Yeah, well, I think it's a very specific question, but in terms of my program, it's also kind of leaning to engineering. So most of the concepts that we are actually looking at are also kind of engineering concepts. So I guess there is no kind of problem when you want to actually get into the field of life sciences, as long as you have really great foundation in terms of biology and the likes. Biology, chemistry would be really important when you want to venture in life sciences.
Okay, great, thanks.
Great. Let's see what other questions we have. I mean, we haven't really talked about the current situation, like how, I think we haven't talked about it, how teaching has changed during the whole Corona pandemic. What are your experiences? What is teaching like now? Like, is everything online? Or you mentioned something about going in for labs as well, right?
Yeah, that is absolutely correct, Adam. So right now, before or prior to having the pandemic, so we actually have physical classes. But at this point of time, since the Corona pandemic began, so the university, as much as possible, try to avoid physical gatherings. So in terms of our lectures, specifically, we do it on Zoom meetings. But then in terms of laboratory or practical sessions, so we make sure that we are grouped into smaller groups in order for us to at least execute our laboratory sessions. So it's basically a blended learning where, you know, we still have the meetings, but unfortunately it's all on Zoom to make sure that everybody feels safe in terms of the situation. And of course, in the laboratory, we are only limited to 2 or 3 in the laboratory. So it takes away the feeling of being unsafe in the laboratory as well. So yeah, I think that's my experience here in my university, at least.
Anastasia, what's your experience so far?
So all of our lectures have also been moved to Zoom quite recently. Before that, we were having them very distanced. So we were just sitting like very far apart in the lecture halls. But now, since it's gotten a little worse, it's been moved to Zoom, and some of our labs have also been canceled, but the most important ones that we have to do, we'll be having them in very small groups so that there's very little risk that we might get sick from each other.
Okay, great, thanks. We've had some questions about PhDs, and we can just speak on this really briefly, in that PhD positions are treated as jobs here in Sweden. You get a salary if you do a PhD. We do have a lot of international students who are doing their PhD here. I think around 30 to 40% of PhD students here have international background. And you can read more about those positions on our website. There's no like database at the national level for all these positions, so it's harder for us to talk about them. They're just listed as job postings, basically, on the university websites. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we've gotten through most of the questions, actually. Is there anything else, Reuben and Anastasia, that you would like to mention that hasn't been brought up, or something that you were wondering about before you started studying in Sweden that you really would have wanted like information about?
Well, I think one of the things that I wondered about would be PhD position, and I think a lot of students are actually kind of curious about how things are working here in terms of PhD positions. And I think you guys have mentioned that, yeah, it's treated as a job, but in comparison with the other countries, like especially in my country, you still are a student and you are not kind of paid for it. So yeah, I think those are one of the things that I have kind of wondered. Yeah, and it's also more on project based. So actually, projects are posted online, and if you are qualified for it, then you get to have series of interviews before you actually get the position. So I think that's it for the PhD positions.
Great. Anastasia, what was your main wonder or concern before you actually started studying in Sweden?
I think any concerns that I could have had before were probably answered in this talk right now, but I think maybe when it came to social life would have been, but it's quite good here with the international like buddy program, and then the program itself is very good in terms of like the students collaborating together, so you're always around peers and stuff.
That's great. That's really nice. Yeah, I think that's a nice way to finish. So thanks a lot to everyone who joined us, and thanks for all the questions. We didn't really manage to get through all of the questions. Sorry to everyone who didn't get like a specific answer, but please feel free to come back to our future webinars. There's information on our website and in the YouTube description how to sign up for the future webinars. Oh, and it's here on the screen as well, right? Yeah. And yeah, what else?
Yeah, I guess then just thank you to everyone who took part. A special thanks to Reuben and Anastasiya. Thanks for joining on a Monday evening. And everyone, we just hope you stay safe, of course. And we hope you enjoyed this time. And so thanks for everyone. Have a great day.